The twist in this story is that the Cold War was about to start. The Cold War was now starting. And America, these experiments that had taken place and knowledge had been gained through these evil experiments. Well, America looked at the knowledge and recognized or saw that there could be knowledge that we didn't have, that America didn't have, and decided, let's try and get this knowledge. Now, one of the problems is, and again, this is going to unfold, but I'll give a brief synopsis of it. One of the problems is, if you charge someone with war crimes and you put them on trial, well, you got to say what the war crimes are that they committed. And if you say that the war crimes were committed were these experiments with chemical and biological weapons, then people are going to know what the results of the experiments were. And that means the knowledge is going to be out there, and the knowledge could fall into the hands of people that we were now looking to be facing in another war, which ended up being the Cold War, luckily, not a full war. So that's how this story continues to unfold. Back to the book. There's no question that Ishii as an individual and many of his associates were guilty of serious war crimes. As a lieutenant general, Ishii undoubtedly possessed sufficient high military rank to be classified as a Class A war criminal. He was the top of the tree in his own field. His actions as the head of Unit 731 qualified him as a criminal on many accounts. Not only was biological warfare considered extra legal by most countries, but Ishii was also guilty of outrageous conventional war crimes. He had carried out calculated human experimentations on prisoners of war, a conventional war crime that had long been prescribed in the manuals of military law of every major power. He had carried out similar research against innocent civilians, clearly a crime against humanity. Ishii had taken his biological weapon out of the research laboratory and used it in the field. He had sought autonomy and independence of action for his biological warfare forces throughout the war zones. He had done nothing to restrain the conduct of his subordinates. So this guy is as guilty as they come. There was other events that took place that were equally bad. And here we go. Sub-tribunals were held in China, the Philippines, and the Pacific Islands, but a total of 314 cases were held at Yokohama, Japan. At these courts, a sufficient number of medical atrocity cases were heard for them to be considered as a special category. The most well-known and worst case presented by legal section at Yokohama concerned the fate of captured American flyers held by the Japanese Western Army in Kyushu after April 1945. The appalling experiments to which they had been subjected included vivisection and the substitution of seawater for their blood. For this gross act of barbarism on August 27, 1948, the 9 Japanese involved were convicted and sentenced either to be hanged or to serve life imprisonment. 1. Professor Ishiyama of Kyushu University committed suicide in prison. So, clearly, they had the attitude of like, we're going to get some of these guys that conducted experiments, and that's exactly what should happen. And this was a much smaller number of people that were tortured and killed and used as human experiments than what was used at 731. Continuing on, Cold War tensions had been increasing throughout 1946. The desire to mete out stern justice at the Tokyo trial was increasingly subsumed if found in conflict with the interests of national security. Japan was in the front line. So too now was biological warfare. On August 24th, 1946, Washington cabled MacArthur, ordering him to protect intelligence, especially scientific, which might jeopardize America's national security. It read, under present circumstances, intelligence relating to research and development in the field of science and war material should not be disclosed to nations other than the British Commonwealth. Biological warfare intelligence seems by this time to have become much too sensitive to be brought into the glare of a massive international trial. Throughout 1946, both Russia and America appear to have been reluctant to reveal their hands. In Japan, America appears to have taken some extra precautions to prevent information from falling into Soviet hands. So you can see how it's unfolding.